If you think human history kicked off with a farmer planting a seed, you might want to think again. I mean, what if civilization didn't actually begin in a quiet field, but at a massive, rowdy feast? We're going way back, 12,000 years, to a place in modern-day Turkey called Şanlıurfa. This is a time before settled life was even a thing, and we're about to uncover a story that completely changes what we thought we knew about our past. All right, let's just get right into it. For decades, the story we were told was pretty simple, right? Humans learn to farm, they settle down, they build cities. Boom, civilization. But the evidence coming out of this site, Göbeklitepe, is flipping that entire timeline on its head. The new theory? It was the desire for these huge, organized feasts that actually kickstarted civilization. And agriculture? Well, that was just a side effect. And look, we are talking about a seriously long time ago, 12,000 years. To give you some perspective, this place is more than twice as old as the pyramids of Giza. It's older than writing, older than the wheel, even older than pottery. This is deep, deep history, and that's exactly what makes the discoveries here so revolutionary. So you gotta wonder, what in the world was going on here? You have thousands of hunter-gatherers, people with no permanent homes, remember, all gathering at this one spot to build something absolutely monumental. What could possibly motivate that kind of massive effort? And that's the big question, isn't it? Were they just building a place of worship, or was something else going on? The evidence is pointing to them preparing for this enormous recurring event, an event that would have required a level of organization and, well, catering that we just thought was impossible for people this far back in time. So, to figure all this out, archaeologists had to start playing detective. They had to look beyond the obvious stuff and start piecing together clues that were, believe it or not, kind of hidden in plain sight. You know, everybody talks about these giant T-shaped monoliths, and they are incredible. But the real story, the real mind-blowing clues, were found right at their feet. Down there, archaeologists found these enormous vessels carved directly into the limestone floor of the site itself. And we're not talking about little bowls here. Some of these stone vats could hold up to 160 liters of liquid. That's over 40 gallons. Just think about that. Huge, permanent containers that could only mean one thing. They were producing something on a massive scale. And this is where it gets really weird. It presented a huge puzzle, because these people hadn't even invented pottery yet. So why on earth would they carve these enormous, totally immovable containers? Well, chemical analysis of the gunk left inside gave us a pretty shocking answer. They were brewing. So when you start to put all the evidence together, the picture gets crystal clear. You've got these huge vats. You have chemical traces of fermented grains, probably for a simple beer or a porridge. And then you have tens of thousands of discarded animal bones. It all points to one thing: massive organized feasts for a huge crowd. Which, of course, brings us to the next big question. If they were throwing history's first big party, what exactly were they eating and drinking? Let's take a look at the menu. Okay, so based on all the bone fragments they found, we know the absolute star of the show was gazelle. But they were also feasting on aurochs, which were these massive wild cattle that are now extinct. And wild boar, too. This wasn't just about survival, you guys. This was a celebration. And get this, they cooked all of this without a single pot. The meat was probably roasted over huge open fires, or maybe slow-cooked in earthen pits that were filled with hot stones. It's a technique a lot like a modern tandoor or an underground oven. Pretty primitive, sure, but super effective for cooking tons of meat for a huge crowd. But the real game changer was the grains. Archaeobotanists found traces of wild incorn wheat and barley. And crucially, the grains weren't just being stored there, they were being ground up. This tells us they were making a hearty, nourishing porridge, maybe the 12,000-year-old ancestor of modern dishes like ashor or keshkek. So all of these clues, the beer, the roasted meat, the porridge, they all led archaeologists to this radical new theory, one that just rewrites the very beginning of our settled history. It's literally called the feasting theory. The basic idea is that to build a place like Göbeklitepe, you needed a huge workforce. And to attract all those workers and keep them motivated, the organizers had to throw these incredible feasts. This wasn't just a party, it was their payment. It was the social glue holding the whole project together. It was basically the world's first major catering operation. And you can see the chain reaction right here. So you want to build a massive temple. For that, you need workers. To get the workers, you need food, and I mean lots of it. And to get that much food reliably, well, you have to stop chasing it and you have to start growing it. Agriculture wasn't the planned revolution that started civilization, it was the accidental solution to a massive catering problem. Now, the amazing part of all of this is that this 12,000-year-old story isn't just some dusty piece of ancient history. It's a legacy that you and I still interact with every single day. Remember those wild grains? The ones gathered and ground into porridge to feed a crowd of ancient builders? Well, those were the direct ancestors of the grains we all rely on today. Seriously, just think about that for a second. The next time you smell fresh bread baking, you are smelling the direct legacy of Göbeklitepe. The bread on your table today exists because 12,000 years ago, somebody had to figure out how to feed thousands of people at a party. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. Göbeklitepe shows us that what truly defines us, what drove our biggest innovations, wasn't just our cleverness with tools. It was our deep, fundamental need to gather together, to share a meal, and to build something extraordinary as a community. So it leaves us with this one final thought to chew on. Was our world sparked into being by the solitary work of a farmer in a field? Or was it ignited by the collective hunger and the shared excitement of a community gathering for a massive feast? Göbeklitepe seems to be telling us the real answer lies around the table.